We live in such a consumption-based era. We are always consuming something. Hell, you're consuming my podcast right now. You're listening to my voice, right? But I truly believe to construct a very intellectually engaging summer, but also for yourself, for your soul, for your heart, it's truly important and necessary and vital to engage in the art of creating this summer, right? Not only is it amazing for how you feel in your, but this is female genius, it's important for your brain too, right? When you create something, you're activating multiple brain regions simultaneously. Your memory center, your emotional center, your amygdala, your motor skills, your planning, and strengthens the neural connections between these brain regions, which ultimately helps with cognitive decline. The act of creating is also very important for mood regulation because they regulate and stimulate dopamine and serotonin, particularly once you start entering this idea of the flow state, which I've spoken about in the dopamine detox episode before. This can be deeply therapeutic and has psychological benefits, especially when dealing with times of grief, uncertainty, and stress. So after a long academic year, after a long day of work, it's so beneficial for your brain, for your mental health, to pick up and just enter this idea of creating something. On top of this, it allows you to engage and interact with your own world in a meaningful, transformative way. You kind of encapsulate the feelings that you experience at a time and exploring the feelings or your perspective of our world at the time. And I think that's a very powerful thing to do. Not to publish, not for consumption of anyone else, not to perform for anyone else, but to create for yourself. And that is something that I feel like we're not very taught to do very often. I mean, if you think about our education system, we're always creating for something to be marked, right? We create a piece of work for our teachers to tear it apart so we can get an even better grade. We perform a piece so we can get a grade and we can get applause. On TikTok, we do our day in the life. We take a picture of our food. We go to the specific restaurants. We can take this really nice picture to post online. We've kind of curated an existence that is so focused on performing. How do we perform? How do we make ourselves look amazing? How do we perform a feeling or an emotion or a thought? And so I implore you, when you go into taking this act of creating this summer, and I want to ask you to try and create not from a place with the intention of performance, but create from the intention of creating. And that might feel very confusing and very dissonant from the position in life that you are currently exploring right now. And it's something that you might have to be quite intentional about crafting that space and reminding yourself you're not creating for performance, you are creating for yourself. You're not creating for others' consumptions, you are creating for your own joy and soul to experience what it's like to create. So here are some little small tasks that I would recommend to kind of kickstart your creative expression, but you can do this in any way that you feel called to. I would also ask you to reminisce to when you were a childhood. What did you enjoy creating when you were a childhood? Did you like writing stories? Did you like making music? Did you like drawing? Try and think about some of the lens and realms that you have abandoned due to the pursuit of a specific career or pathway, or you were disencouraged from doing because you weren't quote unquote good enough to continue pursuing it. And maybe go back to those roots and give your childhood self the opportunity to create from that place again. Morning pages is also another really good way to explore this creative aspect of yourself. This has been popularized and introduced by Julia Cameron in the book The Artist's Way. Think Doechii. Doechii did this whole YouTube series before Alligator Bites Never Healed dropped, where she did the whole Artist's Ways journey. It's like his own female genius summer school with his own syllabus and everything. And I think it was a large push and reason to why she created her Grammy Award winning album. But in Artist's Way, it suggests this idea of making morning pages, which is where you wake up and you write 3 pages of a stream of consciousness in whatever format you desire. And in theory, the intention is to clear your mind, and you also begin writing freely without judgment. As a result of beginning to write freely without judgment, this idea is that in 3 or 4 days' time, after you get used to just writing whatever you think, without judgment, without thought, without thinking, oh, somebody else might read this, right? You begin to bypass your ego and your inner critic to tap into raw, unfiltered ideas and feelings that can help inspire other things you want to create in the future. So when you wake up in the morning, take a plain notebook. It doesn't even have to be nice, plain sheet of paper, a scrap piece of paper, right? And then write 3 pages. And you might start to notice, this is a good idea for a poem. Or, I actually kind of want to tap into this and write a short story. Or, this is an emotion that keeps playing in my mind. Maybe I want to write a song. These are all these different things. Or maybe I want to create a short film. Is a really good way to potentially explore your creativity this summer.
Female genius.